Joining me right now is Fox News senior strategic analyst, retired General Jack Keane. General, it's always a pleasure to see you. Thanks so much for being here this morning.
Yeah, great being here, Maria.
Your thoughts on this mobilization, and I guess I also want your opinion on this $12 billion going to Ukraine. Here we are watching the government potentially shut down, and they're talking about a clean bill, but they want to make sure to get more money in there for Ukraine. Your thoughts?
Well, first of all, on the protests, what's happening here is Putin has had a personnel problem in terms of not having the proper force sizing right from the beginning. Remember, he tried to take over the whole country with something less than 200,000. There was over 700,000 Ukrainian military defending against that. And he's taken casualties that are quite staggering. 25,000 dead, 65,000 wounded reported by the Pentagon. With those kind of casualty rates, the United States hasn't received in any war except the Civil War. So what he's trying to do, he's losing the war now, and he wants to make up for that personnel shortage he has, thus the mobilization. But there's real problems with it because they've assigned quotas to the military commissars at the local level, and because they can't fill the quota with the combat reservists who've already served in the Russian military, they're forcing conscription of young people who have never served. And that is also adding to the protest and the frustration that is out there. Maria, listen, what's going to show up here are people who are physically and medically unfit and psychologically and emotionally not prepared to go to Ukraine and fight. And they're going to join a military that has performed poorly in Ukraine. Wow. Certainly, it will help to have more people, but it's not going to be decisive, Maria, in our judgment, because it's not going to be a coherent fighting force.
Yeah, I'll tell you, all of this has really exposed a real weakness in the Russian army, hasn't it? But I got to get your take on what I think is even a bigger story that's happening right now, and we're not really seeing a lot of focus on it, and that is these protesters on the street of Iran. The Iranians are calling for the end of the Iranian regime. At least 41 people have died during this unrest, including Iranian police officers. Arkansas Senator Tom Cotton joined me on Sunday on Sunday Morning Futures to look at this as a potential for leverage for the United States. He says, look, this administration should be taking advantage of the fact that the people are out chanting death to the supreme leader, but instead this administration is doing the opposite. Watch this.
This is a moment to stand with the people of Iran. Yet Joe Biden is doing in these protests exactly what Barack Obama did in the summer of 2009 during the Green Revolution protest. He is standing idly by because he doesn't want to offend the Ayatollahs as he's trying to pursue this reckless nuclear deal.
General, your thoughts on that deal? Is it close? And is this a point to stop and reassess with all of these people in the streets?
Well, certainly that deal is stalled, but clearly Iran is moving towards a nuclear weapon with or without a deal, and we're on a glide path to a collision, certainly with likely a military option out of Israel, somewhat supported clandestinely by the United States. In terms of the protests, I think right below the surface, for years in the society in Iran, you have this festering frustration because of the lack of human dignity. I mean, can you imagine a regime telling you what clothes to wear and how to wear them is what the Iranians are doing. And obviously it's a denial of personal freedom, and the people are yearning for democracy. I mean, they were in the streets in 2019, Maria, over incredible gas prices, and over 1,500 of them were shot dead in the street. And the pattern is unfolding here. The facts are the people are protesting very aggressively, and the Iranians have shut down mobile phone service. Now they're shutting down the internet. And once that happens, then the police turn it over to the IRGC, the military, and they get in there and they begin to really shut this thing down by willing to kill hundreds, if not thousands, of people. That has been their pattern for years now. And they will do this because they cannot stand the threat of their people. Listen, the Iranian regime, Maria, fears their own people more than they fear the United States. They know that their regime could be put in jeopardy by the people. not by the missiles or airplanes from the United States, which they believe is likely not to happen. And the facts are, I agree with Senator Cotton here. The voice of the President of the United States needs to be strong and frequent on this issue, that the people on the streets know that President Biden and other world leaders have their back, much less like what Ronald Reagan did when the Poles were demonstrating against the communist regime in the 1980s. And Les Walesa heard the president's voice, and he had tears in his eyes when I was in a room with him many years later telling that story. So, yes, we are doing some good things here. We're sanctioning the morality police. We're trying to open up social media and collaboration platforms so the Iranians can still access the Internet. But I think the president has lost an opportunity here to step up and speak frequently and loud about what is going on here. After all, this is an adversarial regime to the United States. He's been killing us for years now. And I totally agree that the reason the president is likely not doing this to the degree that he should, because he doesn't want to offend the Iranians going into this nuclear deal. That's the same reason that Obama didn't do it in 2009.
And if we are actually seeing the supreme leader on his deathbed, now would be the time to push back if the people are getting a little leverage. But we'll see. I got to get your thoughts real quick on what's going on across Europe. General conservatives are gaining steam in Europe. First in Sweden, where the right-wing party won this month's general election. We have a new prime minister in Britain, British PM Truss. And then in Italy, where Giorgia Meloni is on track to become the country's next prime minister. Last month, I spoke with Giorgia Meloni on this program. Here she is. Watch.
We have a Europe which spent lots of time building a massive bureaucracy and chasing woke ideology, when instead we needed a defense strategy, we needed energy security, we need the defense of our industries.
And that's where she'll focus, defense strategy and freedom in Italy. Your thoughts on the impact on America?
Well, certainly Italy is a close ally of the United States, and they go through their political fluctuations just like the United States does. But I think these are dangerous times in Europe, certainly with war raging in Europe, and the countries in Europe having to look at their own defenses. Are they adequate enough? And I think this administration will certainly take a hard look at that and hopefully will increase their defense budgets given what the threat's going on. And I know they're going to continue to support Ukraine as did the previous regime, which is the right answer. I mean, what we have the opportunity to defeat the Russian military inside Ukraine without having NATO having to fight them or the United States having to fight them. What we have to do is help the Ukrainians succeed at that.
Yeah, it's a great point that you make, General. Great to see you this morning, sir. Thanks so much.
Yeah, great talking, Maria. Have a wonderful week.